Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars. You're watching another one of my YouTube guitar building videos. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I hope by the end of this video, you'll consider subscribing. Today I'm going to be addressing a couple of comments that were recently posted on videos in my channel. And I'm not going to be answering their questions in specific detail. Rather, these two comments are typical of many of the comments that I've been getting over the last couple of years, which illustrate a topic that I'm going to be talking about in detail in this video, and that is the importance of testing. It seems that a lot of people, when it comes to building their guitars, will jump in and start attempting to do techniques that they've never ever done before. And the two comments that I'm going to address are specific to applying finishes. But a lot of this also relates to some of the techniques that we use for routing, cutting, carving, and sanding guitar bodies, radiusing fretboards, installing frets, leveling, crowning, and dressing frets. All this work involves skills that many of you have never done before. And I wish it would be possible to watch a YouTube video and then go back to the shop and feel like you've mastered the technique that you're trying to do. But in many cases, that's just not the case. It can take a fair amount of practice to master a technique. And fortunately, a lot of the techniques aren't so complex that it can take years to master. Many of them, especially like fretwork, you can learn quickly. It's really a matter of just developing some muscle memory when it comes to recrowning frets and dressing them and doing that sort of work. When it comes to finishes, however, it's imperative that you test your finishing strategy before you commit to your guitar project. I've stressed this before many, many times, but I still keep getting emails or comments on my videos from people who run into problems and are upset because they think it's ruined their guitar. And it's a problem that could have been solved if they had simply tested their strategy, their finishing strategy, before committing to the guitar that they're working on. So let me read you a couple of these comments. Now, I've redacted these because I don't want to mention names. But in the first comment, the poster writes, "I've been following your channel and love the content. Problem is, I'm obviously not a good student. I recently started a Fender Strat kit. Followed your instructions on sanding, staining, sealing, the grain filler. Issue is, I used, I think that's Angelus dies, but then I used the Solar Res grain filler sealer and it totally ruined the stain job. And after one full day, it's still tacky. Luckily, I only did on back, so I figure I can sand off and redo. It doesn't seem any drier than it was yesterday. Will it eventually harden enough to sand? How long? Or would you suggest to remove all the damaged areas? It was looking good. It was looking so good until I tried the filler. I guess I should have used water-based product like Aquacoat, which I just ordered. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thanks in advance." Now the next comment is, this was a comment specifically about the use of z-poxy finishing resin, which I have used many, many times, and I know a lot of other luthiers who use it successfully as well. But this comment was left on a video where I had used z-poxy to seal in graphics that I had laminated to the front of a guitar. And the commenter writes, "You should consider taking this video down or inputting more information. While the thought is nice, myself, redacted, and redacted, have all done damage to very expensive guitars using z-poxy. I used the same type you did, and the same thing happened to both mine and redacted's guitar. It went on nice and thick and smooth as can be. As it started to dry, is slowly kept separating till it dried like mountains. This was over a very well prepped black paint, sanded and prepped clean to 400 grit. Both these comments illustrate the need to test your finishing products on scrap before you commit to your guitar. It's important to understand that while I've used all these products, I've never had the kind of problems that they're mentioning, and that's because, well, for one thing, the environment that I'm in a different environment than they are. I'm also using the products in a different way than they were using them. So if you're going to deviate from what I've suggested in the videos, or if you're going to be in a different environment where the temperature is different, the humidity levels are different, the air pressure as a result of the altitude is different, you're likely going to have a different outcome. And that's why it's imperative that you test on scrap first. And if it doesn't work, if you run into problems, yes, you can send a question to me to ask what resolution there might be. However, it's more likely you're going to have to address your questions to the manufacturer of the products. I don't manufacture any of these products, and I don't have any kind of a relationship or connection to any of these companies. So I can't really speak to some of the problems that you might be having. That's something that they're going to have to help you with. And it's very important to understand that when you're using multiple different kinds of products, there's always the potential that some of those products aren't going to play well together. This is really common when it comes to applying finishes. It's well known that if you try to spray nitrocellulose over enamel paint, there can be a chemical reaction that causes it all to wrinkle up. That's one of the reactions that folks are really knowledgeable of and have experienced since those products have been out there for a long time. But some of these products like Solar Res and Z-poxy haven't been around as long. And there are a lot of other new products like the 2K water-based polyurethanes and some of the other polyesters and other products that haven't been around long enough for us to really know what different kinds of reactions there are going to be. So if you've got this idea that you're going to use a certain type of grain filler, a certain type of dye or stain, and then a certain type of clear coating product, you owe it to yourself to test it on scrap before you actually apply it to your guitar, because once you've applied it to your guitar, there isn't a whole lot you can do. I mean, in some cases you can sand it off and start over, but that's not a desirable outcome. So really, you're on your own if that's the approach you're going to take. There's not much I can do to help you. So I would encourage you to always test before you start applying those products to the actual guitar that you're building. And if you can't test, if for some reason, like the first commenter was building a kit guitar, so he may not have scrap material to test on. And you always want to test on the same type of scrap that the guitar is actually made out of. If you can't do that, then you need to reconsider your finishing strategy and start looking at using products that have been tried and true and are known to work with the materials that you're using. And don't take any chances. If you want to do something that's unique and that you don't know that has ever been done before, save that for when you're going to be building a guitar from scratch and we'll have some scrap wood that you can test on. So I hope all this makes sense, and I don't want it to be a rant, but I've just noticed that these questions have been coming up frequently lately. And my answer is almost universally test on scrap, and I'm going to hammer that home. And in future videos, I may talk about practicing techniques that you will use when making a guitar either from a kit or scratch, and things that you can do to help speed up the process of learning how a technique works. So as always, until the future episodes, as always, take care, stay safe, click the thumbs up button, and be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'll see you in the next episode.